Sandra and welcome to my fireside foundation chat. I'm actually going to show you my foundation collection today. I have rounded up my rather obscene foundation collection. I have a lot and I kind of wanted to use this opportunity to show you everything that I have and also go through things and declutter some of the things in the process. I store my foundations in my dresser in a drawer, and I have these Muji drawer organizers to kind of divide everything up, and I have 3 of them in there. One of them where I have my primers and concealers, and then 2 of them in which I have foundations. And I have more foundations than I have room in those Muji dividers. So my goal is to use up and not buy any more foundation, kind of use up what I have, just edit down my collection so that I just have enough foundation to fill those slots and just have a selection that I'm really happy with. I've tried splitting it up in different formula categories to make it easier to go through, and I will start with cushions. I have 2 cushion foundations here, and they're both from the drugstore. The first is the L'Oreal Lumi Cushion Foundation. I have this in the shade W3, and then the Maybelline Dream Cushion Foundation in the shade 20. Now, I have oily combination skin. It goes through phases. Sometimes it feels a little bit drier than usual. Most of the time, it's somewhere on the oily combination spectrum. Even though I like the way that the L'Oreal Lumi Cushion Foundation looks when I first apply it, it's really fresh and dewy with light coverage. It's just not right for my skin type. I feel like I look like a total grease ball after about an hour of wear. So this is definitely something that I think would be more suitable for somebody with a drier, dehydrated skin. So I will actually be passing this on. I've only used it a couple of times, and while I like it, I just never reach for it because it just doesn't last well on my skin. The Maybelline Dream Cushion, however, I absolutely love. This is the most recent foundation that I have added to my collection, and I really love it. It is so easy to apply. It's super quick. The coverage is a medium coverage, and this has been my go-to foundation for work. It lasts really well. If you want to see how I apply it, if you want to see it in action, I used this in my last makeup tutorial, so I'll have a link to that up on the screen and the description box below if you want to check it out. But I really like this, and I'm definitely keeping this and would repurchase. The next category is tinted moisturizers, and I have 4 of them to share with you. My biggest issue with tinted moisturizers is that they have a very narrow shade selection, and I rarely seem to find a good match. Now, I've never tried the Laura Mercier tinted moisturizer. I will try it at some point. I find that in a lot of tinted moisturizers, the light to medium shades always have a bit more of a pink or peach undertone, whereas I want something with like a light yellow, golden olive undertone. So that's my biggest pet peeve, especially with this product. This is the Clarins BB Cream. This is the Skin Detox Fluid. I really love the formula of this. It leaves my skin looking so fresh and flawless. It has a decent amount of staying power on my oily skin, but I have this in the shade Light, and it is so pink, and the shade that's even lighter than this is too light, and then the medium shade is too dark. So unfortunately, in order for me to wear this, I have to mix it with other things, but I do really like the formula, and I've done a blog post on this. If any of the foundations, most of them I've done separate, more in-depth blog post reviews, so I'm gonna have everything linked in the description box if you want to hear me talk more about these things. I don't want this video to be an hour long, so I'm gonna try and keep it brief, but I do like this. I love the fact that it has good SPF, and I really love the finish of it. I just wish the color was better, but I'm going to keep it around. I've been actually mixing it with this. This is the Givenchy Teint Couture Balm, and I have this in the shade number 3, Nude Sand. This is a very light shade with a yellow undertone, so when I mix it in with the Clarins, it actually gives a really nice color for me. I like the combination of the 2, but in terms of formula, I definitely prefer the formula of the Clarins. I would not recommend or repurchase the Givenchy Teint Couture Balm. I just think that for the price, it's really not that much better. I don't love the finish of it as much as I love the finish of the Clarins. I like them together. I prefer the Clarins. This is okay. I'm going to keep using it until I use it up, but I wouldn't repurchase. And then the other 2 are more drugstore. This is the Marcelle City Tinted Cream. This has SPF 25 in it, and this is the shade light to medium. This is the only tinted moisturizer that I've tried that is a perfect match for me. So if you have light to medium skin and you want something with a nice golden yellow yellow undertone and a light coverage, this is your jam. Now, Marcelle is a Canadian drugstore company. I'm not sure if they ship to the United States or worldwide, but if you're in Canada, you definitely can find this at your local drugstore. I really like this. Now, it has very light coverage. It definitely evens up the skin tone and gets rid of redness, but if you have any hyperpigmentation or acne scarring, this will not cover that. But it is really light and hydrating. I've actually just been using this as a primer, kind of like my primer, moisturizer, SPF in the mornings if I'm in a rush, and then I will just use a foundation stick or a concealer on areas where I need more coverage. Next, we have the Maybelline Dream BB Fresh. This is the 8-in-1 Beauty Balm Skin Perfector. I have this in shade 100. This is really light. While I don't love this, I don't hate it either. This is one of those things I keep around to actually mix in with my darker foundations if I want to kind of dilute them and get them to match my color. So I just kind of keep this on the side. This is one of those mixer products that I like to use. I very rarely use this by itself. I think that if you have normal to dry skin and you just want something nice light to medium from the drugstore, I think this is a really nice formula. It's not that much different than the Givenchy, and in terms of pricing, obviously this is way cheaper than the Givenchy. My next category is non-traditional foundation formulas, and I have 3 to share with you. First is the Sephora Airbrush foundation. I use this in the shade Fawn. This is another one of my favorite work foundations. Shade Fawn is awesome if you have light to medium skin with a yellow undertone, and this has nice medium coverage. It's super lightweight and really fast to apply. This works best with an artiste brush, for my opinion. I've tried it with different types of foundation brushes. I've tried it with the Beauty Blender, and so far, hands down, my favorite method of application has been with the artiste brush. This has been one of my go-to foundations for work if I'm really in a rush and I just want to look really put together in a couple of minutes. I've never tried the Dior Airbrush foundation. I have had no desire for it. I'm actually quite happy with this. I have a long way to go before I can purchase another foundation. Next up, we have the Tom Ford Stick Foundation. This is a beautiful foundation. It's also the most expensive foundation that I own. Is it worth the obscenely high price tag? Probably not, but it is a really wonderful stick foundation. This is the only stick foundation that I actually own, and I have this in the shade Natural. Perfect color match for me, and this has been my go-to foundation in the winter if I ever have a dehydrated skin that needs like a medium to full coverage. And I think this would be great for any skin type except for really oily. Like, I would never reach for this in the summer, but it's been a wonderful fall winter foundation for me. It blends out so flawlessly whether I use a buffing brush or a beauty blender. It just gives me a beautiful finish, and sometimes I use this to conceal. Like if I just want to use a lightweight tinted moisturizer like the Marcelle, I will use this all over my face, and then I just kind of spot conceal in the areas where I have acne scarring with the Tom Ford, and all together it makes a beautiful, flawless, but still natural looking skin. Next up is the Dior Nude Air Foundation. I use this in the shade 21, and it's a wonderful medium coverage, light to medium buildable coverage foundation. This is my favorite foundation to use in the spring. It is so lightweight and the finish is beautiful. It's the most skin-like finish. It really looks like nothing on your skin, but at the same time it still covers. It doesn't accentuate dry patches. I really love this, and I will definitely repurchase. Now, this came out when the Pipette formula was really popular. I know the Armani Maestro came out, and then the YSL Fusion Ink, and then Laura Mercier came out with a very similar formula. And out of all the ones that I've tried, this has been my favorite just because it's been the easiest to work with. All the other ones, especially the Armani Maestro, found that it really accentuated dry patches and dry skin. And sometimes, because I'm really acne prone, you know, after a blemish heals, it still kind of leaves a little dry patch behind. This looks wonderful, kind of smooths over them. Now, next we have the more traditional foundation formulas. I am going to start with my L'Oreal foundations. I have all the foundations that they have from their Infallible range, and I love them. L'Oreal foundations are definitely my favorite drugstore foundations. I have the Infallible Pro Matte in shade 102. I have the Infallible Pro Glow in shade 205, and then I have the Infallible Total Cover in shade 305. Now, I actually have more than one shade of this. I got sent all the colors in the range, but I kept shade 305 and 303, and I kind of mixed them together depending on my color needs. I really like all of these. The Pro Glow is a little bit too glowy for me. I can't use this all over my face, but it actually works really well mixed with the Pro Matte. I will use the Pro Matte in my T-zone, and then I use the Pro Glow kind of around my face, and it gives my cheekbones a beautiful, like glowing from within look, but the Pro Matte kind of keeps the oils at bay in my T-zone where I tend to get really shiny. The total cover is great. It's not as long lasting as the Pro Matte on me. I have a video all about this by itself, so I'll be linking to that if you want to hear me talk about this more in depth, but I do like all of these. I'm going to keep them. I'm happy with them. Next up, I have the Bourjois Air Mat foundation. This is okay. I don't hate it. I don't love it either though. I would not repurchase. The color match isn't that great. I'm kind of in between shade 02 and 03. I don't love the formula enough to purchase both shades and mix them together, so I have shade 02 and I kind of make it work. I liked it a lot more when I first purchased it, but I think now that my skin has gotten a little bit more dehydrated and a little bit more combination. Before, it used to be kind of oily all over. I don't love it as much as I used to. And then next is the Maybelline Dream Velvet Foundation. This is in the shade 60 Sandy Beige. This really matches my skin perfectly in the summertime, and it's a strange texture. It's like a whipped mousse. It kind of reminds me of the texture of the Infallible Total Cover foundation, but the Infallible Total Cover is a lot more dense and has more coverage, whereas the Dream Velvet is a bit more bouncy and moussey. I like the finish of this, and I love applying it with a beauty blender, but pretty sure this breaks me out. Every single time that I use this, I get breakouts afterwards. I haven't used it in a while because the shade is too dark. It's more of like a summer foundation for me, but I'm gonna try it out again in the summer, figure out if it does break me out. The finish is beautiful. It really is a nice velvet finish and has really good oil control as well. Next up, I have my favorite foundation ever that is no longer available, and it's the old formula of the By Terry Cover Expert. This has been reformulated and it has SPF in it, and the foundation formula has completely changed. The texture of the product has changed, and I'm not a big fan of the reformulated version, but the old original formula was my favorite foundation of all time. I have a tiny bit left. I use this in the shade 7, and then I use the shade 9 in the summer. I love this so much that I bought it in 2 different shades, and unfortunately I only have about a quarter of a bottle left in each, and I'm just gonna cherish this until the last drop because this is my favorite, and I haven't found something that I love as much as I loved this foundation. Oh, it just makes me sad thinking about it. From favorite to not so favorite, this is the least favorite foundation in my collection, and this is going to go into the passing it on section, but I'm not even sure who to give it to because I can't think of anybody that this foundation would work well for. It's the newest Chanel foundation, and it's the Chanel Le Teint Ultra Tenue foundation. When I was reading about it when it got released, it just seemed so promising. I ordered it online right away, sight unseen. You know, it just sounded so good. An ultra wear flawless foundation. It seemed to be exactly what I was looking for. I really don't love it. It has such a strong scent. Even at the end of the day, I can still smell it on my skin. The scent wouldn't bother me that much if it was actually a good foundation, but the scent is way too strong, and the application is a pain in the butt. No matter what I do, no matter how I prime my face, only way I can get it to work well is if I just kind of work in sections, because this sets super quickly. So you kind of have to work in sections. So I would do like my chin, then I would do my cheek, then I would do my forehead, and then, you know, kind of work in sections in order to get it to blend really well. And it still just doesn't look that good. I can see it sitting on my skin, and I've been trying to make this work since like November. I just don't love it, and it was so expensive. The shade match is great. I have this in shade 21, which matches my winter pale skin really well. I can't think of anything good about this foundation, to be honest. It's not even that good when I mix it in with other stuff. I've been so disappointed by Chanel foundations lately. I haven't, since Vitalumiere Aqua, I have not found a Chanel foundation that I like. I used to love all of them. I used to love Pro Lumiere, I used to love Matte Lumiere. They got rid of those. I think now the only Chanel foundation that I still like is Vita Lumiere Aqua. Everything else I have not liked at all. On a lighter note, here's a foundation that's not disappointing, and it's Smashbox Studio Skin. I actually have one bottle that's empty, so this is just gonna go in the garbage. I had shade 2.1, which I have used up completely, and then I have shade 2.3, which is a little bit darker, and I've actually been mixing this with the L'Oreal Pro Matte. Together, it is amazing. So these two together are almost as good as the by Terry Cover Expert. I would repurchase both of them just so I can use them together because it's like holy grail status for any occasion for me. I can use it for work every single day and it lasts all day flawlessly. I can use it for a special occasion. The coverage can be built to like a medium full. So I really like these two together. The Smashbox Studio Skin by itself, I like it, but I don't love it as much as I love it when I mix these two together. I would recommend Studio Skin though. It's one of those foundations that works for any skin type. If you're dry, oily combination, it's kind of like a one size fits all foundation formula, I think. It doesn't have any SPF in it. It's not a drying foundation. It looks beautiful applied with a beauty blender, and it's kind of like a medium but buildable foundation formula. Another foundation that I've been really impressed with in terms of color selection is the Makeup Forever Ultra HD, and this is actually an empty. There's no more foundation left. I ran out of it, but I kept the bottle because I wanted to talk about it in my foundation collection video. It has been a wonderful color match for me. I use this in the shade Y245, and I really wish that it had better staying power on my oily areas. I found that it just did not last that well, but I loved the color match. I love the fact that it didn't oxidize or anything like that. I would not recommend this formula for someone that is very oily. I think if you're just kind of normal to dry, maybe a little bit combination, you can make this work. Next foundation is the EX1 Invisiwear foundation in shade number F200. Now this brand caters to people with yellow and olive undertones, and I bought this color because I thought it would be a great foundation to mix in with other foundations where I just kind of want to tweak the color a little bit. This formula is terrible for me. I think maybe if you have dry skin, you will like this. I feel like people with dry skin on YouTube really like this foundation. Can't even get this to work if I mix it with stuff. And I have been trying. I like the packaging. I like the fact that you can see exactly how much foundation you have left in the bottle. It's like an airtight container, but it is such a greasy formula. It doesn't feel greasy when you swatch it, but then whatever I mix it in with, it just makes me look like a grease ball. This does not work well for me. I'm going to pass it on. Maybe one of my friends or coworkers with dry skin will get along with this better than me, but I tried. It just doesn't work for me. Next up is the most full coverage foundation that I own, and it's actually the foundation that I'm wearing today, and it's the Marc Jacobs Remarkable foundation in shade 27 Bisque Natural. This is a wonderful, wonderful color match for me, which is so great. I don't have to mix it in with anything. There are so many things that I like about this foundation. Truly full coverage. You can build it up to like cake face central, which makes it a little tricky to work with. Less is more when it comes to this foundation. So what I like to do is just use the smallest amount possible, and I apply it with a beauty blender, and then I kind of build it up in areas where I need more coverage. The only thing I don't like about it is the delivery method. It's not a pipette. It just has like a stick, and you're supposed to take it out and just dot it all over your face, and you're never supposed to double dip with this. Like one stick dab application is supposed to be enough to give you coverage for your whole face, and I found that to be true. If you don't put the stick back in at a perfectly straight angle, if you like hit the sides a little bit, it kind of overflows and overspills, and it just gets really messy. Today it took me 3 makeup wipes, different sessions of hand washing to kind of clean up the mess around the bottle, so it does get really messy. This does not last all day on me. I think that if you have oily combination skin like me, I find that it does break down around my nose and mouth area after about 6 hours, so I wouldn't wear this foundation to work. I like this foundation for like evenings, like if you're going to like a dinner party or if you're going out dancing or something like that and you want to look really glam, I think this is a great foundation for that, just because it really gives you full coverage. It looks wonderful in like nighttime, evening lighting situations. This also photographs really nicely, so if you want to do like Instagram makeup, this would be great for that as well. The other foundation that I have that is pretty full coverage is the Too Faced Born This Way foundation. I use this in the shade Warm Nude. Now this isn't as full coverage as the Marc Jacobs, but it's pretty darn close. It's definitely a medium to full foundation. If I use more than one pump of this, it starts getting really cakey really fast. What I don't love about it is the lasting power. I just find it to look really bad after about 2 hours. It starts breaking down. It just does not look good on my skin. I think that this will be better suited for somebody that has less oily skin. So if you're normal, maybe normal to dry, I think that this is a good foundation. But if you're combination oily, leaning towards the oily side, I just don't think the lasting power is that great. I think the color range is fantastic. It's very accommodating to different shade intensities and undertones and stuff like that. I have used this. I've been using it a lot in the winter when my skin isn't as oily, but I don't think I will repurchase. Last but not least, we have the Dior Forever foundation. I use this in the shade 21. The Dior Forever foundation is nice. I find the name so misleading. It really does not last. Doesn't last forever. Maybe if you mix it with the Dior Forever and Ever foundation primer, it will give a better result. But the lasting power of it is not that impressive. I do have to blot. Like if I use this at work, I will have to blot around 1 p.m. Just a little bit around my nose, forehead, and mouth. I definitely think that in order to get it to last forever, you will have to use other oil control products in coordination with it, either an oil control primer or an oil control powder. When I use this by itself, I don't think that it lasts any longer than most of the other foundations that I have in my collection. The name and the marketing is a little bit over the top, but I do like it. It doesn't oxidize, and shade 21 is a perfect match for me for the summertime. When I apply this with a beauty blender, it leaves the most beautiful velvety finish to the skin. It doesn't make my skin look dull. It has a nice medium coverage, but it is buildable. I'm not sure if I would repurchase it. I feel like there are other foundations that I would like to try before I would repurchase this one. And that is it. That is my foundation collection. If you have any questions about any of my foundations, please feel free to put it below, and don't forget to check out the description box. I hope you have had an amazing week, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye.